disease. The virus doesn't infect them and cause a disease, so they won't be shedding virus. There have been a couple of incidences where virus has been found on pets. As far as I'm aware, one instance of a dog and one instance of a cat. All the evidence there suggests that, in fact, it was the human passing it on to the animal. But, of course, the animal doesn't get infected. But you still can get coronavirus on your pet. It's not something you should worry about.
In that case, Simon, those very, very rare instances, the ones that you've highlighted, is that because of people petting a dog or a cat rather than coming from anything around the mouth of a pet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could cough or sneeze over their animals. Some people hold their animals up to their face. Or, yes, it could be petting it if they've got it on their hands.
OK. So question to you from Aaron. He says, would it help stop the spread of the virus to wipe our door handles? And also related, is our post safe to touch?
It's definitely important to wipe all surfaces within reason that you're coming into contact with, which is why we're also told to wash our hands all the time as well, so that we can reduce that. It has been understood that it can live on surfaces from anything from 24 hours to 9 days. In other studies that study the family of viruses that this comes from, it can be sometimes even up to a month. So we need to be really, really stringent in cleaning. It's difficult to know about things like the post, but you would theoretically say, yes, it could be. So you've just got to wash your hands all the time.
Yeah, so with that as well, rather than people maybe getting their post through the door and spraying the post with sort of any antibac if they have it, the more sensible thing to do is just if you pick up the post and you open it, don't touch your face and then wash your hands?
Exactly.
Yeah, OK. Simon, to you, and this is about the 2 metre rule that we're all trying to live by here at the moment. This is from Steve. Is 2 metres far enough away to avoid being infected by hard-breathing joggers and cyclists? And this is something that has come up from people, particularly in cities when we're advised to go and take exercise, like walking in parks. And there's not maybe much space on some running routes or walking routes. And people are a bit concerned about people who are panting quite heavily.
Well, the 2 metre rule is put in place with people in mind who are coughing and sneezing. And if you think about it, you're far more likely to cough or sneeze fluid from your mouth or your nose a long distance than you are if you're sort of breathing heavily. So I really don't think that people panting after exercise is a greater risk than coughing or sneezing. Probably much less of a risk, in fact.
Do you think that generally, if you're a runner and you're probably healthy and don't have any symptoms or don't have coronavirus at all if you are out running, but should those people running, is the responsibility maybe on them to make other people feel safer by running and redirecting where they're going?
I think the onus is on everybody to make sure there's a 2 metre gap. I think everybody should be sensible. We shouldn't leave it down to one set of people, but that being sensible includes runners and exercises in general, yeah.
OK, yeah, so this is also kind of related to the 2 metres. This is from Bassett, who asks, what should you do if you see someone not observing the 2 metre rule? Is it important enough, this rule, to maybe risk aggravation or risk offence with someone?
Well, I mean, I think the suggestion that you could put yourself at risk is a really good one, and I think you should be mindful of that. I mean, we've heard today that Boris Johnson's going to be sending out to 30 million of us a letter really asking us to abide by lockdown and also social distancing. So I think rather than getting fixated on the 2 metre rule, just practice social distancing. So, you need to avoid unnecessary contact. And that is probably the most important take-home message. Assume everyone has COVID until proven otherwise and stay safe, stay at home. OK,
good advice. Let's go back to you, Simon. Christian asking here. Lots of my friends, we had this as well yesterday, lots of my friends are recommending I use a face mask. What are the benefits? Should I do it?
The only conceivable benefit I can think of for members of the general public is that it stops them touching, or will reduce the frequency of them touching their mouth or their nose. It won't, of course, prevent them from touching or rubbing their eye. Currently, Public Health England do not advise people to buy masks, and it's noteworthy, I think, that the Surgeon General of the United States a few weeks ago told people to stop buying masks, although he put it rather more forcefully than that. Now, you'll see people in hospitals, doctors and nurses in hospitals, wearing masks. That's because they should be wearing water repellent masks, and they're getting up close and personal with people coughing and spluttering large quantities of virus all day, every day. And of course, they will change those masks quite frequently as well. So, no, people don't need them. The public don't need them.
Yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot. So hopefully people, if they're sending those questions in, getting their answers. So just one to you here on NHS staff. Jason asking, all but essential procedures and clinics in the NHS have practically been cancelled. What is happening to the staff who would normally run these? Are those people being retrained? Where do they go? Do you know?
They are being redeployed. Going on what's happening in my own workplace at the moment, I've got colleagues that had previous experience in emergency departments or as community nurses. So actually, interestingly, as of next week, that's what they're going to be doing, and I'm not going to see them probably for a few months. So everyone is just being utilised in the best way possible to make sure that we are ready as we can be for what we expect to happen.
OK, Yasso and Simon are staying with us. We're just going to take a short break. A few more of your questions after this. Welcome back. You're watching our Q&A on the virus pandemic here on Sky News. Our panel this evening, microbiologist Simon Clarke and GP Dr. Yasso Brown. Thank you both for staying with us. Simon, next question comes from Nikki for you. My daughter needs to move out of her university accommodation by mid-April. Can I travel to bring her home because she can't get public transport and has a lot to bring back? A question on lots of parents' minds, I'm sure.
Yeah, this is a really tricky one, and I'm unaware of any specific guidance to parents and students in this situation, although universities should be able to offer some guidance and some help. I think we really need to look at the government's recommendations for the housing market here, and that is that it suggests that people don't move house during this period. I'm aware of no specific exemption for moving students out of halls of residence, for example, to the current guidelines on social distancing and things like that. So my best answer is probably leave it. The university will more than likely be quite accommodating in allowing people to stay longer than they would otherwise have planned.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on university advice there, Nikki. Yeah, so another question for you. Rosie asking, does it matter if you have a weak or strong immune system if you catch the virus?
The short answer is yes. And probably just to give it a bit more breadth, it's always a really good thing to try and maintain a healthy lifestyle so that you are healthy. So eating a really good diet, so 5 a day, and doing your exercise, which is why we've been allowed to exercise during this lockdown. It does boost your immune system. So your immune system is your body's defense system. So the stronger it is, obviously, the better you're able to fight an infection. And that's also why there are certain people that are being safeguarded and asked to self-isolate.
Yeah. Simon, coming back to you, Edward asking, if you're a smoker, could smokers spread the virus to passive inhalers of their smoke?
That is theoretically possible, unless, of course, the smoking makes you cough and splutter, in which case it's probably quite likely if you've got it. But I'll remind people that smoking is a bad thing to do at any time, particularly with this coronavirus doing the rounds. Now is a good time to give up.
So Andy asking, should people who have asthma expect a letter from the NHS advising that they should self-isolate for 12 weeks? So are you at high risk in one of the shielding category if you have asthma?
So NHS England has been sending out letters identifying people that are high risk. So if you're one of those, you will be notified. If you have any queries, I would probably go on the public health website first off, and if you need more clarity, either calling, probably not calling NHS 111 or your GP if you can help it, but if you must, then probably your GP, and also discussing it with your occupational health.
Okay. Simon, we're getting towards the end of this, but let's try and squeeze a few more questions in. Abdul asking, can the virus come into your house on your food delivery because it might survive on food packaging? And this is something that I think, a lot of people are a bit concerned about because some of us are relying a bit more on food deliveries.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to come via a delivery service, of course. I mean, it can easily get contaminated in the shop. And I have to say, I think plastic is more likely to allow the virus to survive on it than certain other materials. But if you're that worried about it, and I can understand why some people would be, then give your shopping a wipe down or a spray in a wipe down. I did actually see on social media, on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that somebody was putting their food delivery, I won't say which shop it was from, their food delivery in the bath and giving it a wash. But that's a fairly extreme measure.
But just on that, so if you're getting a delivery, let's say, of fruit and veg or something that's in a box of freezable burgers or whatever, I mean, surely it's not advisable to be spraying fresh fruit and veg with any alcoholic antibacterial.
No, but you would be presumably peeling fruit and veg. I don't think if coronavirus got on a banana skin or orange peel, it's much of a problem. Things like apples, things like that, you might want to run under the tap, but that's probably, if they are contaminated, not really very satisfactory. Things like vegetables, you're quite likely to peel them or boil them.
Yeah, okay.
So that would get...
Yeah, just one very quick one, yeah. So Heather asking, should teachers be wearing PPE, looking after children of key workers?
So I don't have that much sight on this, but logically I would say yes. The Department for Education and Public Health England have released guidance for teachers. One of my neighbours happens to be a teacher, and I'm aware that they are wearing some personal protective equipment. So that is happening. To what extent, I don't know. It will be probably per department.
Yeah, and if there are teachers watching and who don't have that, maybe check with schools as well. Yeah, so thank you, Simon. Thank you very much again, both of you, for your time. Hopefully plenty of your questions answered there. Stay with us. More news coming up in the next hour.